Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Study English Online, everyone. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jake. Hey everyone, so good to have you here with us today.
Okay, Jake, let's start with a scenario a lot of our listeners know way too well. You've studied English for years, you can read almost anything, you can write pretty well, but then you watch a movie or you talk to an actual American, and suddenly it sounds like this. What do you want to do for the weekend?
And your brain just completely shuts down, right? You know English, but somehow you understood nothing.
Exactly. And that sentence was actually just, what do you want to do for the weekend? Completely normal, everyday English, just spoken fast and connected the way native speakers actually talk.
This is one of the most frustrating experiences for learners because it feels like a betrayal almost. You studied the words, you know the grammar, but real spoken English doesn't sound anything like what's in the textbook audio.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're fixing today. Today's episode is called Train Your Ear. Understand fast American English in 30 minutes. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly why fast English sounds the way it does, and you'll have real tools to start training your ear immediately.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with the core concept, because understanding this one idea will change how you listen forever. English is what linguists call a stress-timed language, not a syllable-timed language.
Let's break that down simply. In a syllable-timed language like Spanish or French, roughly speaking, each syllable gets about the same amount of time and emphasis. In a stress-timed language like English, only the important, stressed words get full time and clarity. Everything else gets squeezed, shortened, and reduced.
This is the single biggest reason fast English sounds so confusing. Native speakers aren't pronouncing every word clearly and separately. They're compressing the small, unimportant words and stretching out the big, important ones.
Let's hear an example. Slow textbook version. I am going to go to the store. Now, natural fast version, I'm going to go to the store.
Notice what happened there. Am almost disappears into I'm, going to becomes gonna, and to before the becomes a tiny weak t sound. The important words, go, store, stay clear and strong.
This pattern repeats constantly in natural English, and once you understand it, you can actually predict what's happening instead of feeling lost every time it starts over.
Let's go through the main features of connected speech one at a time, starting with linking.
Linking is when the end of one word connects smoothly into the beginning of the next word, especially when a word ends in a consonant and the next word starts with a vowel.
For example, turn it off doesn't sound like three separate words. It sounds like turn it off, all blended together smoothly.
Another example, an apple sounds like an apple. The N from an links directly onto apple.
This is actually really good news once you understand it, because it means a lot of confusing fast speech isn't actually new vocabulary, it's just familiar words glued together in a slightly different shape than you expect them to read them separately.
Let's talk about the second feature, reduction, specifically of function words. Function words are the small grammar words, to, for, of, and, a, the, can, was, and in fast speech, these get shortened and weakened dramatically.
To often becomes ta, like in I want to go. For often becomes fur, like in this is for you. And often becomes n, like in fish and chips. Of often becomes of, or even just like in a lot of people, instead of a lot of people.
This happens because these words carry grammar information but not the main meaning of the sentence, so native speakers' brains and mouths don't spend much energy on them. All the energy goes to the content words, nouns, main verbs, adjectives, the words that actually carry meaning.
Let's talk about the third feature now, contractions taken even further than the ones you learn in textbooks. You already know I'm, don't, can't, won't, but natural spoken English goes further with informal contractions that aren't usually taught directly.
Let's go through the big ones. Going to becomes gonna, want to becomes wanna, got to or have got to becomes gotta, Kind of becomes kinda, sort of becomes sorta, don't know becomes dunno, lemme becomes lemmy, gimme becomes gimme, what are you becomes whatcha or what'ya, have to becomes hafta.
These aren't lazy or incorrect English, by the way. They're just the completely normal, natural way native speakers talk in casual conversation. Understanding them is essential for real listening comprehension.
Let's demonstrate a few of these in full sentences. I'm gonna call you later. I want to get some coffee. I gotta go now. It's kinda cold outside. I don't know what to do. Let me think about it. Give me a second. What you doing tonight? I have to finish this first.
Let's do a quick listening challenge right now. I'm going to say a sentence in fast, natural speech, and Jake, you tell us what the textbook version would be.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. What do you want to eat for dinner?
That's what do you want to eat for dinner?
Perfect. Next one. I don't know. What are you in the mood for?
I don't know. What are you in the mood for?
Exactly right. One more. We gotta leave in like 5 minutes.
We have got to leave in about 5 minutes.
See how once you know the patterns, your brain can actually decode these instantly instead of freezing up.
Let's move to the fourth big feature of connected speech, the flap T, which we've actually mentioned briefly in a previous episode, but let's go deeper here since it's so important for understanding American English specifically.
Right. In American English, a T sound between two vowels often turns into a quick, soft D sound. Water sounds like waiter, better sounds like better, city sounds like city, a lot of sounds like a lotta.
This single feature alone causes massive listening confusion for learners because they're taught T as a hard, clear sound, and then native speech constantly turns it into something that sounds completely different from what they expect.
Let's demonstrate. Slow, I need to get a bottle of water. Fast, natural, I need to get a bottle of water. Notice get a becomes getta, bottle of becomes bottle a.
Once your ear learns to expect this pattern, sentences like this stop being confusing and start being completely predictable, even automatic to understand.
Let's talk about the fifth feature now, elision, which is when a sound completely disappears rather than just weakening.
A common example, next day, often loses the T sound completely, sounding more like next day. Must be often loses the T, sounding like must be. Friendship sometimes loses the D sound in casual speech, sounding closer to friendship.
This happens because certain sound combinations are just physically awkward or slow to produce quickly, so native speakers naturally drop the difficult sound to keep the speech flowing smoothly and quickly.
Let's talk about the sixth feature, assimilation, which is when one sound changes to become more similar to the sound next to it.
A classic example, don't you, often sounds like don'tcha. The T and Y sounds blend together into a ch sound. Similarly, did you often sounds like didja, blending the D and Y into a j sound.
Let's hear these in full sentences. Don't you want some sounds like don't you want some. Did you see that sounds like did you see that. Won't you come with us sounds like won't you come with us.
These patterns show up constantly, especially in casual conversation, movies, and TV shows, so learning to recognize them specifically will massively improve your listening comprehension almost immediately.
Let's do another quick decoding challenge. Anna, ready?
Ready. Go ahead.
Won't you just tell me already?
Won't you just tell me already?
What'd you think of the movie?
What did you think of the movie?
Perfect. You're getting really good at this pattern recognition already.
Let's talk about a listening strategy now that ties all of this together, top-down versus bottom-up listening, because this mental shift really helps a lot of learners.
Great topic. Bottom-up listening means trying to catch every single individual sound and word perfectly, building understanding piece by piece from the smallest units up. This is honestly how most classroom listening exercises train you, and it's exactly the approach that struggles most with fast connected speech.
Top-down listening means using context, general topic knowledge, and the overall situation to predict and fill in gaps, even when you don't catch every single sound perfectly. This is actually how native speakers themselves process fast speech too, believe it or not.
Right. Native speakers don't perfectly hear every single sound either. Their brains are constantly predicting and filling in gaps based on context, expectation, and general meaning. That's honestly why fast native speech works at all, even between two native speakers.
This is such a relieving realization for a lot of learners. You don't need to catch every single sound perfectly to understand a sentence. You need to catch enough key words and use context to fill in the rest, the same way native speakers actually do this themselves.
Let's add one more layer to this idea because it connects to something worth really sitting with. Even fluent bilingual and multilingual people who've spoken English for decades, still occasionally miss a word or two in fast, noisy, or unclear conditions, and they simply ask for repetition or use context to move forward without any embarrassment at all.
That's such an important point to normalize. Missing a word here and there in fast speech isn't a sign of weak English. It's just a completely normal part of how listening works for absolutely everyone, native speakers included, especially in noisy environments or with unfamiliar accents.
So, if you catch yourself feeling frustrated or embarrassed after missing part of a fast sentence, remember that's not a uniquely learner problem. It's just how real, live spoken language works for every single person in every language, everywhere.
Beautifully put, and honestly, a really important permission slip for a lot of anxious learners listening to this episode right now.
Let's demonstrate this with an example. Imagine you're at a coffee shop and you catch want, coffee, cream, sugar. Even missing several words, context alone tells you the barista is asking whether you want cream and sugar in your coffee.
Exactly, and that's a completely successful listening outcome, even though you didn't catch 100% of the words clearly. This is the mindset shift that separates frustrated learners from confident ones.
Let's talk about a specific practical technique now for actually training your ear, shadowing, which is probably the single most effective exercise for this specific skill.
I love shadowing. Let's explain it clearly. Shadowing means listening to a short clip of natural speech and speaking along with it at the exact same time, trying to match the rhythm, the speed, the connected sounds, not just the individual words.
This is different from just repeating a sentence after you hear it. You're speaking simultaneously, or with just a tiny delay, actually attempting to physically produce the same rhythm and connected sounds you're hearing in real time.
Why does this work so well? Because it trains your mouth and your ear together at the same time. Your brain starts to physically recognize these fast, connected patterns as a normal, expected shape of English, rather than a confusing blur.
Let's walk through exactly how to do this as a practice routine. Step 1, choose a short clip, ideally 15 to 30 seconds of natural spoken English, a podcast clip, a movie scene, a YouTube video, ideally something with a transcript available.
Step 2. Listen to the clip a few times just for general understanding, without worrying about catching every single word yet.
Step 3, read the transcript while listening again, connecting the written words to the fast, connected sounds you're hearing, noticing where the reductions and linking happen.
Step 4. Now try shadowing, speaking along with the audio in real time, matching the rhythm and speed as closely as you can, even if it feels clumsy or difficult at first.
Step 5, repeat this same short clip multiple times, maybe 5 to 10 repetitions, until the shadowing starts to feel smoother and more natural.
This exercise, done consistently, maybe 10 to 15 minutes a few times a week, genuinely transforms listening comprehension over just a few weeks. It's honestly one of the highest value exercises a learner can do for this specific skill.
Let's do a mini practice of this right now, together, live, so you can hear what shadowing actually sounds like in practice.
Great idea. I'll say a natural, fast sentence, and Jake, you shadow it right after, trying to match my speed and rhythm.
Let's do it.
I don't know, I was thinking maybe we could grab some food later. What do you think? You want to come with?
I don't know, I was thinking maybe we could grab some food later. What do you think? You want to come with?
Great job. That's basically the exact exercise, just done live between the two of us instead of with recorded audio.
Let's move to another practical strategy now, dictation practice, which pairs really well with shadowing.
Great addition. Dictation means listening to a short clip and writing down exactly what you hear, then comparing it to the actual transcript afterward to see where your understanding broke down.
This exercise is incredibly valuable because it shows you exactly which specific patterns are tripping you up. Is it the flap T? Is it a specific contraction? Is it linking between two particular words? Dictation reveals your personal, specific gaps really clearly.
A great approach, do a short clip, maybe just 1 or 2 sentences, write down what you hear as precisely as possible, then check the transcript and specifically notice and label what pattern caused any mistakes. Was it reduction, linking, a specific fast contraction? Over time, you'll start noticing your own personal pattern of trouble spots, and you can specifically target those in future practice, rather than practicing broadly and inefficiently.
Let's do a longer listening decode now, a full short paragraph broken down piece by piece so you can really see this analysis process in action from start to finish.
Great idea. Let's do it. Here's the natural, fast version first, all together. I don't know, I was gonna go to the gym, but I kinda don't wanna, so maybe I'll just grab some food instead. What do you think? You wanna come with?
Now let's break this down piece by piece. I don't know. That's I don't know, with the T and ont completely reduced into a quick dunno sound.
I was gonna go to the gym. Gonna for going to, and notice go to stays relatively clear here since it's followed by a pause-like structure before the gym.
But I kinda don't wanna. Kinda for kind of, wanna for want to, both classic reduced forms.
So maybe I'll just grab some food instead. This part actually stays fairly close to the textbook version, showing that not every single word in a sentence gets heavily reduced, just the smaller function words and common phrases.
What do you think? That's what do you think compressed into a fast blended sound.
You wanna come with? Ya for you, wanna again for want to, and interestingly, this casual American structure drops the word along or with me that a formal sentence might include, since come with alone is understood casually in fast, natural speech in many American regions.
See how piece by piece none of this is actually mysterious or random? Every single reduction follows a predictable, learnable pattern. Let's talk about a specific category now that causes a lot of confusion. Weak forms of extremely common words, words you already know perfectly well in their full form, but which sound completely different when unstressed in fast speech.
Great category. Let's go through the big ones. Was. In its full form, it's clear. Was. But unstressed in fast speech, it often sounds like was or even just z. He was tired can sound like he's tired.
Were, full form is clear. Weak form often sounds like were with almost no vowel at all. They were happy can sound like they're happy.
Can, full form is clear. Can. Weak form often sounds like can or just can. I can help you can sound like I can help you, almost blending into the next word.
This is actually a huge source of confusion because can and can't sound almost identical in their weak, fast forms, except for that final T sound, which is often very subtle or even dropped completely in casual speech.
Great point. And this is actually a well-known challenge, even discussed among English teachers specifically. Telling can and can't apart in fast speech relies more on sentence stress and context than on clearly hearing that final T sound.
A useful tip here, listen to the overall rhythm of the sentence. Can't is usually stressed more heavily and often has a slightly longer vowel sound, while can is unstressed and quick. Also, context almost always tells you which one makes logical sense in the sentence anyway.
Let's continue with more weak forms. Him often reduces to im, with the H sound disappearing completely. Tell him sounds like tell him.
Her often reduces similarly, sounding like Ask her sounds like asker, which funnily enough sounds exactly like the word asker, creating a fun little coincidence in fast speech.
Them often reduces to em. Give them the book sounds like give 'em the book.
Your often reduces to your. What's your name? Sounds like, what's your name?
These weak forms are honestly some of the most frequent sounds in all of natural spoken English, since these small words appear constantly in almost every sentence. So training your ear on these specifically gives you enormous listening comprehension improvement for relatively little study effort. Let's talk about a different context now, since fast speech shows up differently across different types of content. Since movies, news, podcasts, and songs all have their own specific listening challenges.
Great point. Let's go through them. Movies and TV shows tend to have the fastest, most heavily reduced, most casual speech, since they're trying to sound realistic and natural, mimicking how people actually talk to friends and family.
News broadcasts, especially formal news anchors, tend to speak more clearly and slowly, with less reduction, since their job is specifically to be understood clearly by a broad audience. This makes news a great starting point for learners building up their fast speech tolerance gradually.
Podcasts vary enormously depending on the show. Some hosts speak very clearly and slowly for an educational audience, while others speak extremely fast and casually, especially conversational, unscripted podcasts between friends.
Songs present a unique challenge too, since musical rhythm and melody sometimes stretch or compress words in ways that don't even match normal speech patterns, plus poetic or unusual word order that wouldn't appear in normal conversation.
Our recommendation for learners specifically working on this skill: start with slightly slower, clearer content like news broadcasts or educational podcasts, and gradually work your way toward faster, more casual content like sitcoms, unscripted conversations, and fast-paced movies as your ear develops.
This gradual, structured exposure approach works so much better than jumping straight into the fastest, most casual content available and getting discouraged immediately by how little you initially understand.
Let's talk about a mindset issue now, because honestly, this topic causes a lot of frustration and even embarrassment for learners, and we want to address that directly.
Such an important point. A lot of learners feel almost ashamed when they can't understand fast native speech, especially after years of studying, like something is wrong with them personally or their learning methods specifically.
But here's the truth. Understanding fast, connected speech is genuinely a separate skill from grammar knowledge, vocabulary size, or even reading comprehension. It requires specific, targeted training, the same way we discussed with pronunciation in a previous episode.
You could have an enormous vocabulary, excellent grammar, even strong writing skills, and still struggle significantly with fast native speech simply because you haven't specifically trained your ear on these connected speech patterns yet. That's not a personal failure, it's just an untrained skill.
This is honestly really similar to musical ear training, if that helps anyone. A trained musician can hear individual notes within a complex chord that an untrained listener simply can't distinguish yet, not because of some natural talent gap, but because of focused, specific practice over time.
Great analogy. Your ear for fast English works exactly the same way. With the right kind of specific, targeted practice, what currently sounds like an incomprehensible blur will gradually resolve into clear, distinct, understandable words and phrases.
And importantly, this happens faster than most learners expect, especially with consistent, focused practice like shadowing and dictation, rather than just passively watching content without any specific technique.
Let's go through a few more specific, extremely common fast speech patterns that are worth memorizing directly since they show up constantly in real conversation.
Great idea. Let's build out this list further. I'm going to, full phrase, versus ama or ama in very fast casual speech. This one is honestly one of the most heavily reduced phrases in all of American English.
Did you eat yet? Often compresses into something close to jeet yet, which sounds almost like a single strange word to untrained ears, but is simply did you eat yet, spoken extremely fast and casually.
What do you want to do can compress all the way down to what do you want to do, blending 4 separate reductions into one continuous sound.
I don't know if I can compress into I don't know if a, with I itself sometimes reducing to a barely there sound in very fast casual speech.
Because very commonly reduces to just cuz or even cause, dropping the first syllable entirely in casual conversation.
Probably commonly reduces to probably or probably, dropping or blending the middle sounds.
I think that often reduces to I thinka or blends into I think at, with the individual word boundaries almost disappearing completely.
These aren't things you necessarily need to produce yourself in your own speech right away, but recognizing them instantly when you hear them is absolutely essential for real listening comprehension in everyday American English.
Let's do a longer decoding practice now, a full mini conversation spoken fast and naturally, and we'll break it down together afterward.
Great idea, let's do it. I'll be one speaker, Anna, you be the other, and we'll do this at natural, fast conversational speed first.
Ready when you are.
Hey, what you up to later? Want to grab some food or something? I don't know. I gotta finish this thing first, but maybe after? What are you thinking, like sushi or something?
Yeah, sushi sounds good. Let me just check what time the place closes.
'Kay, let me know. I'll probably be done in like an hour or so.
All right, let's break that whole conversation down piece by piece now.
What you up to later? What are you up to later? Heavily blended into a single compressed sound.
Wanna grab some food or something? Want to reduced to wanna, and something losing its final G sound becoming summon, which is extremely common in casual speech.
I don't know. I gotta finish this thing first. I don't know, reduced to dunno. Got to, reduced to gotta.
What are you thinking? What are you thinking compressed heavily with thinking also losing its final G sound.
Let me just check. Let me, reduced to lemme.
K, let me know. Okay reduced all the way down to just K, extremely common in fast casual speech.
I'll probably be done. Probably, reduced to probably.
See how, once you know these individual patterns, an entire natural conversation, which might sound like a confusing blur at first listen, actually breaks down into completely familiar, predictable pieces?
That's honestly the whole goal of today's episode, giving you the specific pattern knowledge so your brain can do this decoding process automatically the more you practice and expose yourself to real, natural speech.
Let's talk about sentence stress in more depth now, because we touched on it earlier, but it deserves a much closer look since it's really the backbone of everything we've discussed so far.
Great idea. In every English sentence, certain words carry the main meaning, and those are the words that get stressed, spoken louder, longer, and clearer. These are usually nouns, main verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, the content words.
Meanwhile, the function words, articles, prepositions, auxiliary verbs, pronouns, conjunctions, usually get unstressed, spoken quickly and quietly, often reduced the way we've been discussing throughout this whole episode.
Here's a really useful listening strategy that comes directly from this pattern. When you're struggling to understand a fast sentence, focus specifically on catching the stressed, louder, clearer words first. Those are almost always the content words carrying the core meaning of the sentence.
Even if you completely miss some of the small, quiet function words, catching the stressed content words alone often gives you enough information to understand the overall meaning of the sentence, using context to fill in the rest.
This is such a practical and actionable listening strategy. Instead of trying to catch every single word equally, train yourself to specifically listen for the stressed, emphasized words first, since those carry the majority of the actual meaning.
Let's practice this specific strategy. I'm going to say a sentence, and Anna, just tell me the stressed words you catch, not the whole sentence.
Great exercise. Let's do it.
I'm going to meet my friend at the coffee shop around noon.
Stressed words: meet, friend, coffee shop, noon.
Perfect. And just from those 4 stressed elements alone, you already have the complete core meaning of the sentence, meeting a friend at a coffee shop around noon, even without catching every single small connecting word.
That's exactly the skill we want you to build. Let's do one more. She said she probably wouldn't be able to come to the party.
Stressed words: said, probably, able, come, party.
Exactly right. And again, from just those stressed words, the core meaning comes through clearly. She probably won't be able to come to the party. Let's talk about a related skill now, using context and prediction to fill gaps, since we mentioned this earlier with top-down listening, but let's practice it directly.
Great idea. Prediction means using what you already know about a situation, a topic, or typical sentence patterns to guess what's likely being said, even before or while you're processing the actual sounds.
For example, if you're listening to someone order food at a restaurant, you can predict certain vocabulary and question patterns before they even fully finish speaking. Can I get? I'll have? Could I also get? These patterns repeat so often that your brain can anticipate them.
This prediction skill dramatically reduces the mental load of listening because you're not processing every single sound completely from scratch. You're confirming and adjusting predictions you've already started forming based on context and experience.
Let's practice this. I'm going to describe a situation, and Jake, predict some phrases you'd likely hear in that exact context before we even listen to a real example.
Great idea. Let's do it. Situation: ordering coffee at a busy American coffee shop.
I'd predict phrases like, can I get a, what size would you like, for here or to go, that'll be, have a good one.
Great predictions, and honestly, being familiar with these common, predictable phrases in advance makes real, fast versions of them so much easier to catch and understand when you actually hear them in a real situation.
This is honestly a really underused study strategy. Before diving into listening practice for a specific situation, spend a few minutes predicting and reviewing the common phrases you're likely to encounter, so your brain has a head start recognizing them.
Let's cover a few more specific reduction patterns now, focusing on question forms specifically, since questions have their own particularly heavy reduction patterns in fast speech.
Great category. What is often reduces to what's, which most learners know, but in super casual speech, it can reduce even further, almost disappearing into the next word. What's up sounding like what's up, or even just sup.
Do you want commonly reduces to do you want or ya want, with do almost disappearing entirely in casual fast questions.
Are you going commonly reduces to you goin', with are disappearing almost completely and going losing its final G sound.
Have you seen commonly reduces to you seen or ya seen, again with the auxiliary verb almost vanishing in fast casual speech.
This pattern of dropping auxiliary verbs almost entirely in casual questions is honestly one of the trickiest features for learners, because textbooks teach clear question forms with do, are, have fully present and pronounced, while real casual speech often compresses or drops them almost completely.
A useful tip here is to rely heavily on intonation, that rising pitch pattern we discussed in a previous episode, to recognize that a sentence is a question, even if the grammatical question word is barely audible.
Great connection back to our previous episode on grammar versus communication. This is a perfect example of how intonation carries meaning that grammar structure alone doesn't fully capture in fast, natural speech.
Let's add one more quick example of this pattern, since it's such a common source of confusion. You want some, said with rising intonation at the end, is completely understood as an offer, even though grammatically it's missing the auxiliary do that a textbook version would include. Do you want some?
Right, and native speakers drop that auxiliary constantly in casual offers and quick questions, relying entirely on that rising pitch pattern and the situational context to signal it's a question rather than a statement.
This is honestly one of the clearest, most practical examples of everything we've discussed today, working together: reduced grammar, dropped words, and intonation, all combining into something that looks nothing like a textbook sentence, but is completely clear and natural to a trained ear.
Let's talk about regional variation for a moment too, since American fast speech patterns aren't perfectly uniform across the whole country.
Great point to raise. Different American regions have their own specific speech patterns, rhythms, and reductions layered on top of the general patterns we've discussed today. Southern American English tends to have its own distinct drawl and vowel patterns. New York and Northeastern accents have their own specific rhythm and sound features. West Coast American English tends to be closer to what's taught as Standard General American in most textbooks and courses.
This is honestly good news and a small challenge at the same time. Good news because the core patterns we've taught today, linking, reduction, flap T, contractions, apply broadly across almost all American English varieties. The challenge is that once you add a specific strong regional accent on top, there's additional adjustment needed.
Our advice: master the core general patterns we've covered today first, since these apply almost everywhere, and then gradually expose yourself to specific regional accents if you know you'll be interacting with people from a particular region regularly.
This mirrors exactly what we said in our British versus American episode, too. Build your foundational, most broadly applicable skills first, then specialize based on your specific practical needs and exposure.
Let's take a few listener questions now, since this topic tends to generate a lot of curiosity and frustration-driven questions specifically.
Great idea. Let's go through them. First question, why do native speakers talk so fast? Are they doing it on purpose to be difficult?
Definitely not on purpose at all. Native speakers aren't even consciously aware they're reducing and connecting sounds this way. It's simply the natural, efficient way the language has evolved to be spoken quickly and comfortably by people who've heard and produced these patterns their entire lives without ever thinking about it consciously.
Second question, should I try to speak this way myself with all these reductions, or just focus on understanding them?
Great question. We'd recommend prioritizing understanding first, since that's usually the more urgent, practical need. But naturally, over time, as you become more comfortable and fluent, some of these reductions will start appearing in your own casual speech too, quite naturally, without needing to force them artificially.
Third question, is it okay if I still speak more slowly and clearly myself, even once I understand fast speech well?
Absolutely, completely fine. Understanding fast, natural speech and choosing to speak more slowly and clearly yourself are two completely separate, independent skills and choices. Many non-native speakers and even some native speakers prefer speaking a bit more slowly and deliberately, and that's a completely valid personal style.
Fourth question, how long does it typically take to notice real improvement in understanding fast speech?
This varies for individual, of course, but with consistent, focused practice, shadowing, dictation, deliberate exposure, many learners notice real, meaningful improvement within just a few weeks and quite significant improvement within a few months of regular, focused practice.
Fifth question, what if I understand fast speech in movies with subtitles but not without them? Is that real progress?
That's actually a completely normal, valid stage of the learning process, and it does represent real progress. The next step is gradually reducing your reliance on subtitles, maybe watching a scene once with subtitles, then immediately re-watching the exact same scene without them, to bridge that specific gap deliberately.
Let's put together a complete, practical practice plan now, pulling together everything we've discussed today into an actionable weekly routine.
Great way to wrap up the practical side of things. Day 1 and 2, choose a short natural speech clip, 15 to 30 seconds, and do the full shadowing routine we described earlier, several repetitions, focusing on rhythm and connected sounds.
Day 3, do a dictation exercise with a different short clip, writing down exactly what you hear, then comparing to the transcript and specifically noting which patterns caused you difficulty.
Day 4, review the specific reduction patterns that gave you trouble in your dictation exercise, and specifically listen for those exact patterns in new content, training targeted recognition.
Day 5, watch or listen to a slightly longer piece of natural content, 5 to 10 minutes, without pausing, focusing purely on top-down listening and catching stressed words and overall meaning, without worrying about catching every single detail.
Weekend, relaxed, enjoyable listening to content you genuinely like, a show, a podcast, without any specific study technique at all, just natural exposure and enjoyment, letting your brain continue absorbing patterns passively.
This kind of structured but sustainable weekly routine, even just 15 to 20 minutes on the focused days, produces real, measurable improvement over just a few weeks of consistency.
And remember, this connects directly back to what we discussed in our episode about grammar not mattering as much as people think. Listening comprehension, just like speaking fluency, improves dramatically more through active, consistent exposure and targeted practice than through passive study alone.
Let's do one final practice round before we wrap up today. A rapid decoding challenge, several fast phrases in a row.
Great way to end. I'll give a fast, natural phrase. Anna gives the full, clear version immediately.
Ready? Let's go.
What you doing?
What are you doing?
Ain't no way.
There's no way, or that's not possible, informal. But let's note ain't itself is a whole separate, very common informal contraction worth recognizing.
Gonna have to wait.
Going to have to wait.
Why don't you come with us?
Why don't you come with us?
Let me know what you decide.
Let me know what you decide.
Excellent work. You're decoding these almost instantly now, which is exactly the skill we want you walking away with today.
Let's talk about one more valuable resource type before we close, using closed captions and transcripts strategically, since a lot of learners either overuse or completely avoid them, when actually there's a smarter middle approach.
Great topic. A common mistake is watching everything with captions on permanently, which can actually train your eyes to rely on reading instead of training your ears to genuinely process the fast, connected sounds we've discussed today.
On the flip side, avoiding captions completely, especially early on, can lead to constant frustration and very little actual learning, since you're missing too much to build new pattern recognition effectively.
The smarter middle approach, which we touched on briefly already, watch first with captions to get full comprehension and enjoyment, then immediately rewatch the same short section without captions, specifically testing and training your ear on content you already understand.
This technique works so well because your brain already has the meaning and the words from the first viewing. So on the second listen, it's specifically connecting those known words to their fast, connected sound patterns, which is exactly the skill this whole episode has been building.
Over time, as your skill improves, you can start reducing how often you need that first captioned viewing, eventually watching plenty of content without captions from the very first watch.
Let's also mention specific content recommendations that work particularly well for this kind of ear training, since not all content is equally useful for this specific purpose.
Great practical addition. Unscripted conversational podcasts, especially interview-style shows between two or more people, tend to feature exactly the kind of natural, connected, fast speech we've been analyzing today, since it's genuinely spontaneous conversation.
Sitcoms and casual dramas also work really well, since they're specifically written to sound like natural, realistic conversation between friends, family, and coworkers, featuring heavy use of contractions and casual speech patterns.
Interview clips and talk shows offer a nice middle ground too, often featuring both clearer, more formal speech from hosts and faster, more casual speech from guests, giving you exposure to a range of speeds and styles within the same content.
We'd actually recommend avoiding heavily scripted, dramatic content, like most big action movies, as your primary training material, since dialogue in those films is often less representative of genuine, everyday conversational speech patterns, more focused on dramatic delivery than natural rhythm.
Great distinction. The goal is exposure to genuinely natural conversational speech patterns, which tends to come from unscripted content, sitcoms, and casual interview formats specifically, more than from heavily dramatic or stylized scripted content.
Let's talk about one more mindset point before we wrap up completely: patience and celebrating small wins along this specific journey, since ear training genuinely does take consistent time and practice.
Such an important note to end on. This skill, more than almost any other English skill, tends to improve somewhat invisibly at first. You might not notice dramatic day-to-day change, but then suddenly, after a few weeks of consistent practice, you'll catch yourself understanding a fast conversation that would have completely confused you before, almost without realizing the improvement happened.
This is actually really similar to how listening skills develop in general, even for other areas we've discussed on this channel. Progress often feels invisible in the moment, but becomes clearly visible only in retrospect, comparing your current understanding to where you started.
A great practice here. Occasionally revisit a piece of content you tried early in your ear training journey, something that felt really difficult and fast at the time, and notice how much clearer and more manageable it sounds now. This comparison genuinely reveals real progress that daily practice alone doesn't always make obvious.
Great tip, and a wonderful way to stay motivated through what can sometimes feel like a slow, gradual process, even though it's genuinely working the whole time.
All right, everyone, let's do a quick recap of everything we've covered today.
English is stress-timed, not syllable-timed, meaning content words stay clear and strong while function words get reduced and compressed. Connected speech features linking, reduction, informal contractions like gonna and wanna, the flap T, elision, and assimilation, all following predictable, learnable patterns.
Top-down listening, using context and stressed content words to fill in gaps, works better than trying to catch every single sound perfectly. Shadowing and dictation are the two most effective specific practice techniques for training this exact skill.
Weak forms of common words like was, were, can, him, her, and them show up constantly in fast speech and are worth specifically learning to recognize. Different content types, news, podcasts, sitcoms, movies, offer different levels of speech and formality, useful for gradual, structured exposure.
And ultimately, this is a trainable skill, just like pronunciation or vocabulary, not a fixed talent some people have and others don't. With consistent, focused practice, real improvement happens faster than most learners expect.
If this episode helped make fast English feel a little less mysterious and a little more learnable, save it, share it with a friend who's struggling with this exact frustration, and let us know in the comments, what's the fastest speaking show, podcast, or person that's given you the hardest time understanding?
We'd love to hear your stories, and honestly, we might even feature some of your examples in a future episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Take care, keep training that ear, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.